Welcome back to the Rabid Noise on Rabbit Radio Killer Be Killed special. That was Save the Robots from, of course, Killer Be Killed, whose debut album hit everyone's top releases of 2014. And here to chat about all things Killer Be Killed is Greg Puciato. Awesome to have you on the show with us again, man. How's things?
Great, man. I'm a month away from coming down there, so I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Well, how's all the prep going for the tour?
Good. We're just ironing out, when we're going to get together because, we need to set aside like a week of time to rehearse. And so, we just kind of got that actually figured out today because, as you can imagine, it's just a colossal pain in the ass to get all of us in the same room at the same time. And there's always, three of us that can do, sometime, and then one person can't, and then the other three can do it. So it just becomes an ordeal. But this is actually working out really nicely. We're going to have like the entire week before we leave to all pretty much rehearse morning to night. So when we get down there, we won't fuck up too much.
Man, I'm sure it's going to be such an amazing show. There's so many new fans down here that are just itching to see you guys live. So,
I just texted Troy right before you called. I just texted Troy telling him how excited I was, man. Like it's starting to feel really tangible now. Like the knowing that we're going down there is starting to really hit me. So I'm ready. Give me the fucking microphone. I'm ready. I'll play right now.
Oh man, I'm hoping you guys do some side shows too, because it's definitely going to be one of those things that to see you guys as much as we possibly can down here, because we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, I'm hoping, man. We don't know yet because it seems like they do everything so late with Soundwave, but we don't know whether we're playing any Soundwaves yet. But I actually saw Randy the other day. I saw Randy from Leon Cop the other day, and we were talking about Soundwave, and we were saying we should play Soundwaves together. But obviously we don't know if that's going to be the case. But I'm crossing my fingers that us and Lamb play together. I think that would be a fucking killer show.
Oh man, that would be amazing. Well, this Soundwave is of course shaping up to be, probably the best one yet. And tonight you've chosen your top 5 tracks from some of the bands that you recommend to check out at the festival. And first up is of course the legendary Soundgarden song "Beyond the Wheel" from Ultra Mega OK. So, what was it about that track that really stands out to you on that album?
Man, when I was young, I listened to like a lot of like when I was like 7 years old. I started getting into things like Guns N' Roses and kind of like that like sleazier like rock vibe. And then pretty quickly after, I would say maybe about 8 or 9, I got into like Metallica and Slayer and Anthrax and Megadeth and all this stuff. And I was super into thrash. Like I was into things that were really fast. But Soundgarden was the first band that I heard that really hit me with like slower tempos and like a doomier vibe. And up until that point, I was just like a spazzy kid, and all I wanted to do was listen to like fast music. And the first time I heard that Soundgarden song, that was my real introduction to doom, and just slowing things down and just kind of like pulverizing people with like menace instead of just being hyper and aggressive. That there was a certain weight and confidence to just having just a menacing doom riff. And it's funny, the first time I ever saw Soundgarden, I saw them at Lollapalooza, and so I saw them for the first time when I was a kid at a festival, and the sun was going down, and it was kind of windy and looked like it might rain, and Soundgarden came on stage, and I was kind of a fan, but I wasn't like a super fan yet. And when I saw Soundgarden play, and they just had like this such an ominous, like doomy vibe to them that I was just absolutely blown away. And that was the song that I remember that really stuck with me when I was standing there watching them. And it's, to this day, one of my favorite songs.
Mine too, man. You gotta love Soundgarden, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing those guys again. And another track that you've chosen for us is, of course, Faith No More, The Real Thing, which I was looking at today. It's almost 26 years old, that album, and it still holds up.
No, it doesn't even make sense to me that album's 26 years old. That's crazy. And that album was a huge album to me when I was a kid. There were 2 bands that kind of, I think, later on are the reasons that I started singing. And those 2 bands were Faith No More and the Bad Brains. And those were the bands where I saw a singer that was doing something different than the whole, most singers were either playing guitar or they were doing like a hair metal type of a thing. And when I saw Faith No More and heard Faith No More, and I saw Bad Brains and heard Bad Brains, they were the two bands that I really started getting interested in singing. And there was I saw a video of The Real Thing live. I saw they had a video from the Brixton Academy in the UK, a live video, and for some reason the song The Real Thing was the one that, made me into a fan.
I love that Brixton Academy gig too. Like, I think everyone had that video, and he comes out in the
I had the VHS. Yep. I probably watched that. I might have watched it 200 times, man, probably when I was a kid.
DVD now? Got it on DVD? And it's
no, I'd love to watch it. I haven't seen it in probably a decade, man, after YouTube or something.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's still awesome. Well, we're going to go to those tracks now, and we'll be back very soon with Greg from Killer Be Killed on Rabid Noise. And we're back on Rabid Noise. That was Faith No More with their classic, The Real Thing. And before that was Soundgarden, Beyond the Wheel, both chosen by our guest tonight, Greg from Killer Be Killed. Now, the third track we have coming up that you picked is by my all-time favorite band, the Smashing Pumpkins. And the song is Muzzle from Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. And that album is so incredibly diverse. And out of all those tracks, why did you pick Muzzle? What was it that drew you to that?
You know what? I don't know, man. You like certain songs that hit you and resonate with you for a certain reason, and I don't really know what it is. Maybe there may have been a moment when I was younger that I heard that song and I was really, having a good day or something, and that song just kind of like married itself to me. But for some reason, that song is the one song, and it's funny because it's not even like a single. It's not like Today or Cherub Rock or Disarm or anything, but that's the one that if I were to pick a song by that band to listen to, it would always be that song. And that band is, to me, a lot of bands that I liked later on, like Deftones and My Bloody Valentine, and I got really into to shoegaze and slow dive and things like that. And I don't think I would have kind of known about that whole like wall of sound guitar thing if I hadn't have heard Smashing Pumpkins. And that, I don't think albums like Deftones' White Pony and things like that would have existed, if Smashing Pumpkins hadn't done what they did in the early 90s. So they're an important band.
Definitely, man. And a very important band for me, as I said, like when I first started getting into music, that was the one band that I went out and got every album, everything, posters on the wall. It was and that track is also one of mine, my favorite off Melancholy. So very good choice there, man. Another band that everyone is talking about on the lineup is, of course, Godflesh, and the track you chose is Pulp. So they are a bit underground. So how did you get exposed to Godflesh?
Man, I had an older friend who's about 10 years older than me when I was, in my mid-teens, and he was a drummer in a local band, and he was like the guy in the scene that just like knew everything. Like he knew every little band. He had like 2,000 CDs, and he had like all these bands he'd never heard of before. And he, turned me on to the Street Cleaner record, and it was so pulverizing. Like I'd never heard anything remotely like that. It was so far away from, even like something else that was, heavy or slow. Like this was just in a way where I couldn't. It sounded like a giant machine was, bulldozing over you, and I didn't even understand what I was hearing. They kind of had this abstract, really artistic imagery. And, that I hadn't listened to that band in a little while. And the other day I put Street Cleaner in when I realized that they were playing Soundwave with us. Because I've never seen them, and I'm so excited to see them. And I put it in and listened to it, and it's still so heavy. Like, it really is heavy. And you can hear where, bands like Nine Inch Nails, later on really kind of took a lot of, like, the heavier Nine Inch Nails, the slower stuff that's on, like, a Fragile and whatnot. You can totally tell that was inspired by Godflesh, and they're, again, like, if people don't know who they are, they should absolutely do themselves a favor and check them out at Soundwave.
They're going to be a highlight for me, I think, as well. So, because I don't believe they've ever toured here. So. Oh,
you serious? That's awesome.
Yeah, everyone needs to see Godflesh.
Yes,
it's going to be amazing, man. All right, well, we're going to go to that Godflesh track now, Pulp, and we'll be back in a minute with Greg from Killer Be Killed. Welcome back to the show. That was Godflesh with Pulp, who will be, of course, touring Australia for the first time as part of the Soundwave Festival Tour in 2015. And now we're joined by the one and only Greg Puciato from Killer Be Killed. And so far we've had Soundgarden, Faith No More, Smashing Pumpkins, and, of course, Godflesh. But you've got one more track for us tonight, man, which is Incubus Vitamin, which is from their second album, Science, which was huge with a lot of guys down here that I know. So you've seen them live before as well, of course.
I picked that track actually because we played a lot of festivals with those guys in the early 2000s. We ended up being on I think it was 2002, we ended up doing a lot of European festivals, and pretty much almost every festival we played, it seemed like they were playing. And I didn't care a whole lot about that band going into it, but obviously you end up getting to know people and hearing them a lot, and there's a certain nostalgia for that summer of touring that for some reason I just associate with that band. Like you see, them again, and you're like, oh hey, I just saw you a few days ago, and you become, certain things marry themselves to certain time periods of your life. So that summer of touring in 2002 in Europe, like I said, we played with those guys a lot, and I think the riff in that song is actually really killer. And his voice, honestly, is unbelievable. Every day, we would watch them play, and he would sound note perfect. And it was, as a singer, kind of, for me, just fuck, this is, the guy just sounds absolutely perfect every single day. So that was cool. And at that point, we had only played with really little bands. Dillinger had only played with really small bands, and the whole idea of playing festivals with giant bands was so new and crazy to us that time period was so exciting, and for some reason that that song and that band is a little bit married to that time period, so there it is.
It's like that with albums. Sometimes, you put on an album and it can take you back to, the exact place and time, It's
it becomes more about that time of your life than it does even the song. You don't even know whether or not you would have liked the album or the song, if you'd heard it in another context. But music has a weird way of just really marrying itself, soundtracking itself to certain times of your life, and it's always really cool to be able to play those and instantly be transported, back, decades prior.
There's nothing like it, and it's awesome, man. Well, we're going to go to that Incubus track now, and we'll follow that up, of course, with some more Killer Be Killed and then some Dillinger Escape Plan. Thanks for hanging with us tonight, man, and sharing those tracks, and we really can't wait to see you guys at Soundwave, and hope you guys have as much fun up there as what we are having in the pit.
Man, I'm so excited. I don't think I'll be able to stay on stage for more than a couple songs before I end up taking the guitar off and getting in the pit with you. So I'll see you in a month, man.